Welcome back, everybody, to the ONESREADY podcast. It's Aaron and Trent today to talk about, I don't know, Aaron has a plan because last time we recorded, we didn't have a plan, and we're not sure that recording should ever see the light of day. I just open kimono here, you know.
Yeah, I think we do record that, or we do release it, but it's got to be on Rumble, or it's got to be, it's definitely going to go out on Rumble. And then, hey, everybody, I don't know if you know this, but I think we're going to start doing a Patreon. I think there's a lot of things that because we'd be lying to you if we said that we're 100% open and honest and transparent, because you can't do that because you'll get in trouble, right? Well, if we have a Patreon and if we have some sort of subscription model, guess what we can do? We could have open and honest discussions. We can have things kind of behind closed doors for our good friends. And, you know, when you pay for something, you keep things close hold. So we're gonna examine that. I think I think that might be the way.
What are you not telling people, Aaron? What are we not telling people?
Oh, bro. Man, listen, this ain't the YouTube comment section where I have to try to be like super nice. Somebody on the YouTube. I'm not super nice. It's more like, I don't know. Dude, somebody came in this morning. No kidding. I saw it when I woke up. Somebody was like, from a video that's 2 years old, had something to the effect of, people are asking you for your guidance and your mentorship, and you guys still can't figure out a way to generate wisdom. Sad. It was like a President Trump tweet from back in the day where he just ends with like, sad. This has been the worst trade deal of all time. Sad. That's a bad President Trump. Sorry. Anyway, wow. There you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not huge into the comments. I only go into the comments to see when you react to them. And it's more fun that way because I can actually hear your voice. I have to make up voices for everybody else. Like, luckily, there's a lot going on, and I have plenty of voices to spare. Today, the first thing we're going to talk about is, since we're organized, we have things that we want to talk about. Are you spending your energy on problems or solutions? And so the way I see this, that statement is, we all know that guy that comes into work. It's like, did you guys see the news today? And like the sky is falling and the world is burning, and wastes all of their energy worrying about the problems. Like, problems are everything. They're never trying to make things better. Like, their personal life is falling apart, but it doesn't matter because they're bringing all the problems, you know, of the entire world into your office. And all they do is complain and they never get anything done. Versus being the person that understands that there are problems out there, and that you can work towards solutions in your personal life and your sphere of influence, all those other things, and to make the world a better place. So that's kind of how I wanted to kick that off. Aaron, your thoughts?
And 100%. I love the analogy too that you use for the news. Newsflash, everybody. You are not supposed to be able to know, as a human, you are not supposed to be able to know what is going on worldwide every single second of every single day. If you go back to when humans were the happiest, you didn't know what was going on 10 miles away. In other villages and other hamlets, you didn't know the political ramifications of decisions that were made across the country or in another country or in another continent. We aren't meant to be able to take that information in. I had somebody DM me and say, oh, I'm just really worried about the military. And like, what about an impending nuclear war? Bro. Listen here, idiot. First of all, if there is a nuclear war, you're dead. Second of all, there's nothing you can do to affect it. You sitting here and wringing your hands and, oh, what am I going to do? That is the quintessential focus on a problem. Focusing on problems makes you feel good, but solutions actually work. When you focus on a problem, you get to talk about things. And as humans, we get to, you know, pretend like we're personally involved. People talk about problems these days as if they're personally involved in them. You're not. You're watching it on a phone. You're not personally involved in that problem. And if you start looking at like, hey, is this problem actually my problem? Or is it somebody else's problem that I think I'm involved in? I think you'll find that you're a lot less stressed during the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't watch things, but like, it's weird well, the human brain, right? Like, or the human condition, fear is such a strong thing that's like one of our defaults. I think being fearful for some weird reason gives us purpose, or being a potential victim and being fearful gives us purpose in some weird way. And I think really all that is a way to ignore the things that we should be doing day to day, right? Like, I don't need to clean my room today, Jordan Peterson, right? Because like, what the world could end tomorrow with nuclear, like somebody's tweeting something and riots and people are stealing luggage out of airports, which is hilarious. But
dude, if I had a nickel for every time that nuclear person with the codes stole luggage out of an airport, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it is weird that it happened twice. Unbelievable.
But how do you become that person though that switches from being so engrossed in like stuff that is beyond your control to start to control your life and to become that person that focuses on solutions?
Man, you circle the wagons. You affect what you can. You do get up and you make your bed. You clean your room. You get your house in order. You go to the fucking gym. Papa Swolio, what up? Shout out. One of my favorite Instagram pages. You go to the gym. You focus on becoming a better person. Maybe you read a book. Maybe you try to do something that you can, no kidding, affect. If you're worried about politics, go join your local school board. If you're worried about the state of the world, go to your local board meeting and engage in politics and something that matters. Get some speed bumps put in. Help with school funding. Go do something in your community. Go volunteer in your community. Are you worried about the homeless problem? Don't tweet about it. Go work at a homeless shelter. Go figure out ways to help legislation to where you're fixing the homeless problem. People just want to complain.
Sounds difficult. And
it does sound difficult.
What if I start doing stuff and then I realize that the world is a much more complicated place and the things that I thought were simple that the other people just need to fix for me? Like, what if I start to learn and I understand that there's like the roots of these problems that are not what I thought they were? It's a terrifying prospect to learn that the world is not what you think it is.
Because then, God forbid, you'd have to change the way that you think about yourself and the environment that you live in. Oh, no. Oh, no. Problem-centric thinking is a rocking chair. There's a lot of motion. There's not a lot of progress there. If you just focus on these, and I love that you brought up, victim versus victor mentality, and shout out to Chief Cox for bringing that on in one of the earlier episodes where we talked about mental armor. Problem-centric thinking is victim-centered mentality. Woe is me. Look at all these things that are going on. Lay sigh. I am helpless. Get out of here. Get up, make your bed, clean your room, go to the gym, eat healthy, drink water. You can become unrecognizable in 6 months if you just stopped worrying about problems and started thinking, how do I solve this? Oh, I don't have enough money. I bet you're spending a lot of dumb dollars on things that you don't need to. Oh, well, I don't have enough time in my day. Oh, I bet you're spending a lot of time on right. I bet you're spending a lot of time on Instagram. I bet you're spending a lot of time just doom scrolling on your couch. Oh, I don't have the relationships in my life that I want to. Oh, are you working on yourself? Are you having open, honest conversations with the people that are in your circle to try to cultivate better adult relationships? Then it's your fault. You're the problem. So quit it.
Well, and I think these people that we're talking about, like I noticed some trends with them, right? They view problems at a very surface level or whatever is fed to them through a screen. And then they become tribal, and then they group other people into things. Like, so when if you come to me and you start complaining, like all of this group A is like this, like,
right.
It can be fun for like a 3-minute conversation. But if you want to have a real conversation, like you can't group people. If it's not funny, you know what I mean? Like, right. It's funny to make fun of whatever group of people. Maybe it's not funny anymore. Kids, let me know if that's not funny anymore.
It's still funny. Stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. PJs are hacky sack having, rope carrying hippies, and combat controllers are. I'm not allowed to make fun of combat controllers because I'll get memed online, and you know how I hate the memes. But like,
you can't make fun of combat controllers.
We totally can. It's just those kids can't read, so they wouldn't understand when they were being made fun of. So. Sorry. But so yeah, that of course it's funny, but when you start like everybody thinks this and everybody does that, no, they don't. That is the number one. That's the number one way for me when I hear people complain is like, listen, we all feel this way. Very rarely is that true. Unless there's like 2 people in the room and it's you and that other person, you don't get to say we all, because I guarantee you all don't feel like that.
Yeah, we can say that between us.
Right.
I think like we figured it out. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah,
we spend hours and hours and hours talking to each other daily and monthly.
That's weird. But that's one of the traps, right? Is not treating people like individuals. And if you don't treat people like individuals, if you don't treat individual problems as problems to be solved, or you can't like sift out what is what, I view problems the same way that I view people, like on an individual level. Like that's where we should be doing most of our work. You know, not like this. I don't care about what people are doing in Iowa or whatever. I'm trying real hard to be nice to Ohio these days because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Why talk about something that doesn't exist? You're only giving it power by even saying its name.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the things is, and one of the things that we were always told growing up is like, oh, don't be selfish. Don't worry about yourself. Like you should worry about other people. It's like, you can't help other people if you don't fix yourself first and then fix your house. And that's how you make the true change in our society comes through the individual, not through this, like everybody on Twitter yelling about something and fighting because they're in different camps that are also made up. You know, like if you can't think for yourself, I don't care about what you have to say.
That's right. And it's the basis of this American culture. And I'm going to get shout out Rebels Creed. Love these t-shirts. Thanks, guys. Go to rebelscreed.com. Not even a friend of the podcast yet. They're just an awesome company. So there you go. But that's the basis of what we are in this American experiment. That's the difference between us and every other country on the face of the planet, is that we are individual focused, individual rights and freedoms that no one else has. That is how you make this country better, is you focus on the individual. First, we protect that individual by giving them unalienable rights and a way to protect themselves via the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the golden apple in the silver frame. And from there, we expect every individual to make themselves better, make their family unit better, make their community better. And that's how we're strong together. And it's focusing on get your own house in order first and go from there.
So speaking of individuals, like, but what if there's one of the problems with this tribal thing is when someone's speaking from outside of our tribe, whatever it is, political, social, and all these other things, we just straight up refuse to listen to them, right? No matter what they say. And so like I brought up like Jordan Peterson earlier, and like people will be like, oh, well, Jordan Peterson has all these problems, you know, like no matter who you talk about. But like, how do you separate the individual from the message? Because I know that's like a huge thing. But so personally, I'm not a huge fan of like Jocko, right? Just like, and it's just like the more an aesthetic thing or how he delivers stuff. Like I just don't, I don't jive with it, but he has really good points. I'm not saying that what he's saying is wrong. He has a lot of really good material. And if it's written down, like I don't mind it. But like, it doesn't mean that I'm going to like throw everything away because I'm like, oh, Jocko's a SEAL and like some of his teammates or whatever. But like the information is good. So like, how do you get past that point where you're so tribal, you're in that zone, and then how do you become a free thinker, I guess is what I'm asking.
Right. Well, I can bring up a million celebrities. You know, if you look at, what's his name? Andrew Tate, right? Andrew Tate has been and by the way, if you call Andrew Tate top G, I hate you. Just stop it. Quit it. Quit lionizing people that don't deserve it. But he has said a lot of things that I agree with, from finance to, you know, his views on toxic masculinity. And it's the classic example of, you know, I'm not a huge David Goggins fan either. You know, David Goggins for me says a lot of wacky stuff, but I think his overall message is good. I'll make this one a little bit more personal. I have been given the feedback a lot of times that I am too harsh. I am too much of a dick. Like I say things that are, you know, they may be true, but you don't need to say them the way that you say them. I've been the victim of when I thought I had a good message and it's been thrown out because of the messenger, because I am who I am. Right. I think that has helped me. Number one, it's helped me try to fix the way that I am, try to fix my face when I talk to people. And I feel like I have something important. I try to keep that in mind. But number two, it really opened my eyes up to be able to accept that, because the number one sign of immaturity is when somebody says something true and you're like, oh yeah, but that guy's an idiot. Oh yeah, but I hate that dude. So when I hear those things, I'm like, dude, you can't, you're a child. You're being a child. You need to grow up. Like, is the message true? Is it valuable? Okay. Then two things can be true at the same time. The person you heard it from can be a complete ass bag, and you can also take that message and use it to make yourself better.
Well, and there's so much to think that you know everything, or you have all the data, or that your opinions are infallible. You know, like I have like a certain set of like morals and ethics that are my foundation, right? That are pretty immovable, but everything else is subject to change, you know?
Yeah.
Like growing up, like I don't know, everybody's opinions, like as a culture, our opinions change. Like the war on drugs used to be like in the 80s, it was like, oh my goodness, like these substances are like, terrible or have like this negative moral value in our society.
Yeah,
and now
all of them across the board. Any drugs are bad. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And that's where we grew up. Is this is your brain on drugs commercials.
Yeah, and they didn't specify which illegal drugs
right
were bad, but now as a society, like we've kind of like seen behind the curtain a little bit and whatever, but like the opinion has changed, right? So if you're not willing to accept a change of opinion based on new data, like you found yourself in a place where like you're not growing, and that's my biggest fear, is not growing. I was at a course a little bit ago, you may or may not know, and I was listening to like some 35-year-olds talking about how like you're not going to change people's opinions at this point in their career. And I was like, what are you talking about, dude?
Ridiculous. What a stupid statement that is. Just straight up.
When you're like getting towards the top of the enlisted tier or whatever, the officers, like you have more time or more bandwidth probably to see things big picture and to like change your mind about certain things. Like you have access to way more data.
And it's your job to change your mind at that point.
Right. And and you just what are you gonna do? Just retire and not learn anything ever again and just die? Like I don't know. I'm so terrified of like just becoming stagnant and not learning anything.
Well, that's it. That's how you know. That's how you know you're ready to die, is the day that you don't learn anything and you're just set in your ways and you're like, okay, this is it. I'm riding out all of these things until I go. It is your duty to look at situations with nuance the older that you get, and you should be more willing to change your opinion. And by the way, you should be more willing to change your opinion and in some cases go, hey, sorry, man, I really screwed this up earlier in my life and I've really evolved on this opinion. And you should not feel any type of way about that. You have to manage your ego when we're talking about, because we're talking about, the message and the messenger. And now we're kind of talking about how we evolve and take in information. And if you think that, this is just two old guys talking, we're going to force you to do this in the pipeline. We are going to force you to take on new situations and act differently.
Yeah. Well, and I think as you get older too, like I'm not sure that I have different opinions. I mean, I do, but like you also just gain new opinions, like what you thought was like a singular opinion as you get older and experience and you more and more data and you seek out, truth or whatever and knowledge. Like, no, like I have like 8 opinions on this now because there's like 8 different situations. Like all the situations are different. Individuals are different. Like you can see people as individuals. So like everything becomes a little more murky. There's a lot more gray in the world than there was when I was a kid. Like the people that are like, well, I vote Democrat or Republican because my grandpa did and his dad did, and that's who we are, and that's like my identity. I'm like, you should seek out for your identity to be like a learner, to be a growth mindset person, to be open about what the world is actually like.
Well, yeah, 100%. And I think, we'll talk about some other things here coming up and how do you find that good message, right? So sometimes I agree that the messenger can dilute the message. You can look at the message and go, okay, the person saying this to me, I disagree with and I don't like. Okay, fine. How do you, Trent, decide if the message is good? Like what is your process for like, okay, I just received some information. I'm going to see if this message is valid for me.
I don't know. I just look at the message and I try to forecast the second, third order effects of whatever they're talking about. Right. Like, so like when what's the admiral's name that's told you to make your bed? SOCOM commander.
McRaven.
Yeah. When he said, make your bed, I don't like to make my bed. It's one of my things, cause like logically,
I love how we differ on this because I do. I make my bed in hotel rooms. I make my bed if I come home and the bed is not made because somebody slept in later than I did, still like, I literally will go make the bed and then give like this face, like,
oh yeah, no, like, but like logically I'm like, well, I'm just going to get back in it anyway. Like it doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? But when he says that, it's like, well, what is he actually trying to say? He's trying to say like, do something difficult in the morning. So like most mornings I wake up first anyway, and like I'm going to the gym, or get some order in your life. Have a ritual. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
well, that's what he's trying to say to me. So instead of making the bed, because like, yeah, I'm usually the first up anyway. I'm not the one that makes the bed. Our bed is made, but it's just not me.
I'd love it if you made it with Mari still in it, just like tucked everything in, like hospital corners. So she's just like,
She'd probably be super happy about it.
just snuggled up. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But like you have to have like a routine, and like you got to find out like what these people are saying. It's just like the same thing where Jordan Peterson is like saying, clean your room. Like maybe different, like, but like, cause Adam McRaven was saying first thing in the morning, do something that you do every single morning.
Yeah. You accomplish something right away.
So I get to the gym, that's the first thing I do in the morning is I go to the gym.
Yep.
But like, and I think if you don't look at things that way, cause like I can look at that message and be like, well, I don't need to make the bed. That's stupid. Everything that the guy says is dumb. Like, what is he talking about? He's like, he's the SOCOM commander. He's telling people to make the bed. Like, what's his problem? Like, shouldn't you be talking about shooting people in the face and all this other stuff? No, he's saying like, these are the keys to life, like to being successful as he sees them. And so like, if you don't think about it at all, then it's easy to dismiss things, right? It's easy to categorize people. It's easy to categorize messages. It's easy for your ego to recognize what it is. And before you even can start thinking about it, dismiss it because you're scared to come to the truth that you're not doing everything in your own life to be better.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That's kind of like the little rabbit holes I go down. And I've been changing my mind about a lot of stuff lately, right? Like, I don't know. In the team room, I might be like, Jago is a blah, blah, blah. But the more I think about it, I'm like, that dude puts in all kinds of time and effort. He's trying to make America better. He's trying to bring back, jobs where they make stuff. Like whether or not he was a SEAL and kind of an idiot or whatever, and he talks in the way he talks, and it's like blah blah blah, and he talks about
I'm gonna throw a car battery into the ocean.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
But that's another thing is there's like so many levels to that. Like, well, what is that person doing? Like, what do they mean, and what are they doing? And so like those are big things for me is to try to figure it out. What about you?
Yeah. I look and see if the message exists somewhere else. So when somebody says something, get up and make your bed, or get your house in order, or, do something hard every day. And we harp on it all the time. Like, you need to read, you need to expand your optic. I'm reading the Book of the Five Rings, Miyamoto Musashi. Like slaughter that name.
I'm not going to help here at all.
Yeah. So most famous Japanese warrior. He wrote the Book of the Five Rings. He was a strategist and a famed swordsman. He's essentially the number one samurai that ever existed, and he spent his entire life dedicated to his craft. Right. Yeah. I'm reading this book that was written in ancient feudal Japan, and he is saying things like, it's not good enough to be a casual. You have to devote your life to studying and reading and training. At the age of something like 60, he decided that he wasn't, or like 50, he wasn't good enough at what he did. And by the way, he was a demon. Nobody could beat this guy. He would just wreck dudes. From the time that he was 13, he would get into sword fights and win in Japan. Never had a master, basically, devoted his life just to the craft and the art of strategy. And he went as like a 50-year-old dude, as opposed to opening up his own school and having his own dynasty. He went and lived in a cave for like 3 years, because he really wanted to focus on becoming better at his task. When I can look to ancient Japan and I can see those same things, he would tell you, you have to get up in the morning. You have to have a routine. You have to do something hard. You have to devote yourself to actual endeavors that make you better. When I can see those reflections in that message, I go, hold on. If we've been saying this for a long time, either it's been wrong for all of history, or I'm resistant to the message because of my ego. And it's probably not the former. It's probably not. All of these people probably aren't, dumber than me. I'm probably the problem.
Yeah. It's like when the strongest guy in the gym is trying to help you. It's like, well, what do you know? Type of thing with this guy.
100%.
Like, you're one of the greatest warriors in history. Like, obviously, like the humanity. And here's another thing. Like, people talk about like universal truths. I like to talk about like human truths. Like, people haven't changed that much. Like, people are just people. Yeah. And so we tend to like think that we're somehow different. I don't know. Our ego like does this thing where like we think technology is somehow a product of us right now. And that makes us better than humans were in the past. Like you get that vibe from people, or people straight up say it like, well, it's 2022. Like, these guys wrote a piece of paper with feathers and ink. Like, what did they know?
God. Yeah, freedom of speech. Like you look at the Second Amendment argument, which is my favorite one. Oh well, they didn't have machine guns. Shut up, nerd. You were allowed to buy a cannon. Get out of here. I love how we even do this, and when we start talking about, we talked about it earlier with like generalization and whatever. We'll do that same thing geographically in the same time period. Damn. A coastal elite from LA will talk about the opinions of somebody from inner Alabama, and they will somehow think that they're better or smarter than those people. That is the danger of our ego. We'll do so geographically. You live in a different place. You have access to the exact same information in the exact same time frame and context as I do, and I will somehow think I'm better than you. Like until you realize that about humans, like you're living a rough life.
Yeah, it just doesn't, like, our ego has so many tools it can use to try to keep us from like achieving, our potential. It's insane to think you're better than people, or like to think you're not as good as everybody else. Like, yeah, and we're so tribal, and it has like all these tricks, like, oh, they're from Alabama, so like, what's the worst thing I've ever heard about people from Alabama, right?
Sure, it's like the date your cousin incest thing, right? Like everybody, defaults to it.
So, and it's so weird, like, and and here's the hard part is like, I make jokes about stuff. It's fun to joke about.
Yep.
But if like someone walked into my house or knocked on the door and I needed to talk to them, or I get on team and someone's actually from Alabama, I don't think I'm better than you, or wherever it's from, except for Ohio.
Ohio, well, standard. Yeah, no, that's universally accepted.
Yeah. At least this year. I don't know why. It's so weird. But like until you like you find that balance with your own ego, where you're not better than anybody else, no one's better than you, and you constantly have to work at that, I don't think that you're gonna like make any progress. You know what I mean? Like, no. It's just so difficult to do and difficult to explain like how to do it. I don't know. I'm rambling. Aaron, help me.
You're not. You're doing great. Yes. Like, help. That's what I'm here to do. I help people. That's why there is a ton of books on killing your ego. There's a book literally called Kill Your Ego, and it was one of the better books that I've ever read, because it really does help you get distance from those voices. Your ego is a self-protection mechanism. That fear that we talked about earlier, and it feels good to focus on problems. It feels good to be fearful with other people. It's evolution. It's evolutionary biology to make you fear things, because that protected you. We used to fear lions and wolves and certain plants that we didn't eat, right? So, all of those things were at one point useful, and now they're just part of our genome. They're, no kidding, hardwired into you to be fearful of things. I always laugh at, seasonal affective disorder. People attach these anxiety problems to it. You know what you're supposed to do in the winter? You're supposed to hide in the cave, hope your food lasts you until through the winter, and you're supposed to hibernate. You're supposed to be tired all the time. You're supposed to rest and not take in as much food. That's where that came from. And now we have lights and smartphones and jobs that work through the winter in these places, and you're forced against your evolutionary biology to be awake and be around and just go on about life. And your body has a natural reaction to it. And some people can't deal with it. So we label it. We call it seasonal affective disorder. Really what it is it's your body going, hey, dog, it's dark out at 4:00 in the afternoon. You're supposed to be in a cave eating, some warm food with your tribe and going to sleep and hope that the wolves don't come tonight. That's what you do.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being tired, do you know what helps me not be tired in the morning?
I don't know, Trent. What?
Trench coffee.
I love trench coffee.
Yeah.
I love trench coffee.
When you wake up and you got to go to the gym, what do? You got to make some coffee. I usually make coffee after I get back from the gym. Yep. But everybody, make sure you go check out Trench Coffee, trenchcoffeeco.com. They got great coffee. I don't know how to explain it. Like, they got the beans. They got the best beans, guys.
They got the beans, man. Yeah, they totally do. They got great merchandise. They got subscription plans. My favorite thing that they do is their Trench to Troops program. So you can go on there and you can throw a bag in of your favorite coffee, and they'll straight up send it to a deployed service member. It's something that they've always done. They're obviously close friends of ours.
Yeah, why do they care about the deployed service members so much? Why do they care about that?
Because they're active duty and they're working this thing from the inside, and they've been deployed, and they know that they love, they've been downrange when they are on the receiving end of one of those bags of coffee, and it really does make your life better. for everybody that doesn't know. So, go check out trenchcoffeeco.com. Check out all their brands of different coffee that they got out there. I'm a favorite of the Cowboy Blend. It's one of my favorites because it is high in caffeine.
You can't do it until you come to Texas. You can't drink Cowboy coffee until you move to Texas, Aaron.
Okay, fine. I will. I don't care. They also do wholesaling, so go check them out, trenchcoffeeco.com. Use the code ONESREADY at checkout. Get your coffee subscription up to date. Stop screwing around. Just go check them out, trenchcoffeeco.com. Use the code ONESREADY at checkout. They're awesome.
Can I say something about the codes?
Yeah, what's up?
Everybody has codes. And if you're going to use a code, it's more about you telling them that you heard about them from us than it is about saving the couple bucks. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, it will save you a couple bucks, but that's the point is like, hey, it's coming from us.
Yeah, like it creates that network of people that you listen to or you value. So we value them. If you value us, please use the code. And that goes across the board. Yeah.
I did have a question for you as we're talking through all of these things, killing your ego and how to figure out if it's a good message or not, all the way back to what we started on, which is, being a solution-centered person as opposed to problem-centered. We always talk about these attributes that we're looking for in A&S. So how do the things that we're talking about, what attributes do those actually support? Because people are always like, how do I have these attributes? How do I get these attributes? I think we're talking around it a lot, but I'll ask directly, how does this transfer into those attributes that we're looking for at A&S?
Well, we talk about teamwork and humility and all those other things. Like all these things working in tandem. Like what's the output of the team? Like what when you're on a team that really works well, what is the product, right? Mm-hmm. The product is a team that gets along at work and produces and like they're high efficiency. And what makes a team highly efficient? It's if you show up to a team and you're like a E6. Yep. And they don't need you to be the leader of anything. Do you have the capacity to just do your job, to make everything better from that viewpoint? If you show up as an E6 and they need you to be the team sergeant, do you have the capacity and the willingness, which is the big thing, the willingness to take charge on the enlisted side and to make things happen? And so when we talk about your ego, it's not just, like I need to be humble. It's like, if I see a gap in the system, am I able and willing to fill it? Mm-hmm. Even if I think like as an E6 going in there to become a team sergeant, you're going to have misgivings about your own ability to do that, especially if it's your first time. Like anything for the first time, you're going to be scared to do, which is
anytime.
One of the reasons that we test all that stuff. Like we're going to ask you to do things for the first time for like the first, 15 years of your career. You're going to be doing a lot of stuff for the first time. Yeah. So that's how all those attributes play in, is to make a more effective team. And the reason for that is that team is going to be a solution driven entity. Like that's what it is. Like we see problems, we fix problems. And
right.
We need you to be able to see those problems from the individual on up through the team level. And then as you grow, like the geopolitical strategic level and all those other things where you can fit in.
Yeah. And you said something there that I really want to focus on. It's easy to go in and be the team sergeant. We train people like in the pipeline. Again, here's how you're going to go. You're going to get in, you're going to raise your hand and you're going to say, I'm ready for BMT. Then you're going to raise your hand again and say, I'm ready to do the special operations job. When you graduate the pipeline, you're going to raise your hand again and you're going to go, okay, I'm ready to deploy. Like people forget that, but you can say no to a deployment. You can get all the way through the pipeline and you can have a deployment come up and you can go, I'm a conscientious objector. I don't want to go on this deployment. You have to agree to go on the deployment. You have to agree to continue this thing. So you've volunteered 3, 4, 5 times of your own accord before you ever go downrange. By the time that you're ready to step into these leadership positions, just like Trent, you just said, you've been forced into those leadership positions over and over and over again. It's actually easier to go in when people need you. Like when I walk into a team room that's disorganized, and I've walked into organizations that are not doing well. And that's easy because I am a solutions focused person. I say, here's the problem. Here's the solution. All right, we're going to drive forward. You know what's not easy? Going to a team that doesn't need you. Yeah. Going into a high performing team and looking around and going, what do I do here? Because you don't need me. That's where you got to manage that ego. You're going to have to figure out how to let other people do things. You might just provide them the space. There have been teams that I went to where I'm like, I need to stay out of the way. That's the best thing that I can do is provide these teams and these dudes the space to just continue doing what they're doing. And I just need to shield them and give them the space to run. They don't need a heavy hand. They don't need my input. They might be smarter than me. They might be better than me. That's my very first job as a flight chief. They had to really rush me through my team leader upgrade. And then they made me the flight chief out at Nellis, the one troop chief at Nellis right away. The guys that trained me to be a team leader were my team sergeants. They were PJs longer than me. They trained me literally how to be a PJ. They had to give me like some hard talks like, hey, Aaron, like in my team leader upgrade, of course I failed. Of course I did things that were not good. Of course I individual, training events, of course it was not good. For me to then take charge of that element, take charge of that flight and immediately deploy with them, I was like, boy, here we go. And I learned a lot, from that. And I learned a lot from the guys that, luckily those team sergeants, Matt, and it's actually two Matts, is Matt and Matt. But to watch them put their ego aside when they could have blown me up in front of the team and undermined me, they would let me make my decision and they would pull me aside and be like, hey, you're an idiot. And I'd be like, oh, okay, tell me why. And then they would tell me why. And I'd be like, crap, messed that one up. They'd be like, yeah, you did. And eventually it got to the point where they helped me get into that role to figure out how I needed to do it. And unless you're in those positions, unless we force you into those roles, you'll never learn. And it's harder to go into a team that doesn't need you than a team that does. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, when you step through that door and they're just like try to keep up, it's like, oh no.
Yeah. You're trying to orient to those problem sets as fast as you can, and they're speeding past you. And train's already moving, bro. You better get on.
I mean, those are some really, really fun times because there's nothing like having to work your way into a team that's high performing and then figuring out later on that you belong. Like that's a really good feeling. But the ego, I think, would rather, step in there and be the man and try to fix stuff.
Of course. Everybody wants to be a hero. Everybody wants to uppercut a punk ass into a punch bowl.
Yeah. I think we're a little spoiled in this community because there's really not that many times where you have to like, I think when we think of fixing an organization or fixing a team, or individuals, like it's not that big of a deal. And usually people are pretty receptive to change. And if they can see that you're moving towards solutions, like that's the community. The community loves solutions, right? Like we love solving problems. And it gets, if we get bored, like it gets weird because we will make problems to solve.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. If you don't have enough problems in your area, we'll make some problems, which is pretty funny. And it's not just lip service. Like we do produce, what you're talking about there is followership. We produce high levels of followership in this community because we are solution focused. When you see somebody that has an exquisite solution to a problem that we've been trying to get after, and when you see them start to move out and you're like, wait a second, this guy gets it. People fall in line to that right away. And they immediately, switch that mode into support function. Like how can we help? Because then you want to be part of that solution as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone wants to be part of that team, right? Like the what a beautiful man that you work out with over there.
Yeah. K-Dub.
Right. But like, he's one of those people. It's when he starts talking and like, you can tell that his brain like operates at a level that mine does not operate at. Right.
Yep.
And so like, you want to be part of his team. You want to be like, you want to just like have a small piece of that. It's like, being an instructor sometimes, like you want to have a small piece of someone's success and to like achieve their goals and their dreams. And when you see those people working really hard, so like, and then that's how I view it too. Like as an instructor, like I'm on that person's team. Like I got like a small piece to play. Like I'm not like a leader so much as I don't know. I don't know why that popped in my head, but
no, you're totally right. And it always feels good. The best job satisfaction I think I ever had, saving lives and aiding the injured is awesome. Like that's my given task, right? That's what I do as a person. I'm not saying that I've done those things. I'm not here to aggrandize myself. What I'm saying is it's great to be part of a mission.
You make me call you a hero when we're not recording. I don't understand.
I do. Yeah. I go to Golden Corral on days that aren't Veterans Day and I actually ask for the discount. So no big deal. I'm like, do you not know? But the job satisfaction I got from being an instructor, from watching my students succeed, and no feedback, no nothing. Every once in a while, you'll get that text, you'll get that email where you'll be like, "Hey, I went through something really heinous, and I could hear your voice in my head, and it helped me out." That's a big deal. That's a big deal to instructors. It's a big deal. Like mentorship is a two-way street. even if it's somebody that just shoots you an email and says, hey, you really helped me out with this, or you did something that, you know, I want to emulate. You did something that I want to take on. That's a big deal. And that's the point. That's when you feel good about affecting someone else. It does stroke your ego a little bit, and you have to be careful. You know, memento mori, remember, you're just a human and you're going to die. But it does feel good to pass those things on. And if you're focused on other people, those situations come up.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing is it's like reading positive comments, right? It's not always a good thing. But
I don't know what that's like. Do we get positive comments?
I get tons of them. Yeah.
Wow. Fuck you.
I'm just kidding.
Wow, what's that? Wow, what's that like?
But like, if you don't,
awesome.
if you don't think about what made that possible, right? Like, if you're not you got to be like, oh man, that's really like, but that's not about me. That's about the situation I was in, and like I was able to do the thing that I was told to do, or the example that I was given to take care of the guys, you know. And so like, it feels good, but then like you have another task to go keep doing that kind of stuff to take care of the guys. So actually, I don't think I'm mentioning the comments really at all. Peaches and I are always like jealous that you get all the comments. Well, I wouldn't say love, because
no, man, well, but I'm like a dog essentially. You know, any attention to a dog is good. You know, good or bad attention, the dog is still getting attention. So joke's on you, everybody.
So as we do that, when you walk into that room and you're the problem solver, right? Like we have a thing in the military called like subject matter experts, right? And you're supposed to be the person that knows more about the subject than anybody else. And like the term expert is wonky to me.
Okay.
But to me, the people that I like to be around are the subject matter enthusiasts, or as students and anybody else. Like, those are the people that make your organization great. You know, like, because you might have the person that knows everything. Like, you obviously know a lot more about most of the Air Force stuff than I do. Like, you can spout off regs and stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad, but
like the people that are enthusiastic about doing the job, and I think it's important as a new team member, as a mid-tier team member, and when you're considered the subject matter expert, like, are you still an enthusiast about the subject? You know, like, are you still trying to learn? And it kind of ties into everything else that we're talking about. And so to me, like, that's more important than being like labeled as like the expert.
And I love how you've broken this down too. I think being a subject matter enthusiast leads to being a subject matter expert, because enthusiast, when like just the fact that you're saying, subject matter enthusiast, that implies passion. That implies that you really care. When I watch people sit in a team room and argue about the ballistic difference between 308 and, long range 7.62, and, they talk about these nitnoid things, and to watch people that really understand stuff, you watch it in medicine all the time as well. When you watch people that really understand and are passionate about something, and they'll get into an argument about it, I want that. I want to see that. When you say subject matter expert to me, it reminds me of like, the Jedi Master, not even Jedi Master, because that's not even a good thing. It reminds me of like the monk that's on top of the mountain and he holds all the knowledge. When you say subject matter expert to me, it's just a guy that knows a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Like we have Google now. I have all of the information at my fingertips. I can get to the right answer about 99% of the time. If you want to, the subject matter enthusiasts, those people that argue with passion and that really care about what they're doing, I want that 100% of the time. I want you to be enthusiastic about the knowledge that you're doing. And everybody has guys, right? Like there's tactics guys, and there's jump guys, and there's, air operations guys. We have dive guys. People like gravitate, mountain rescue guys. People gravitate towards certain parts of their communities. I love the special activity nerds inside of our community. Guys doing special activities are a different breed. I love them. I want you to be passionate. I want you to be the penultimate example in your specific lane. I want you to be enthusiastic about it, because if I have a question about it, I'm going to you. I might be the expert. I might have the knowledge of what you're talking about. I will default to an enthusiast 100% of the time. They're just better for the task.
Well, I mean, how many times have you been working on something and someone's like walking by and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" and you're like, man, I can't figure, like, I'm struggling with this. And they like just jump in. They're like, oh, bro, like I was doing this one time and this is how I worked on it and blah, 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 blah. And then they're also the person that will like come by, like, and you're like, they're like, what are you working on? I'm like, oh, Mike, I'm cranking out this stuff, or I'm working on my knots or whatever PJs do. And he'll be like, oh man, like, actually, yes, I'm not great at that. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you figure it out? You know, like, it's the same person. And like, I love that person so much. So like, having that enthusiasm, having that learning mindset, I think is so much more important than that other label. Cause there's no end to the enthusiastic guy, you know, like, and we all know those people that are really, really good at it, at whatever they're doing. And they're like, yeah, I'm not that good. Like, I'm still working. Like, I got to get here. But like, I think once you label yourself an expert at something, it's just another trap, right? Like, oh, I'm done. I am the expert. It's like, no.
Yep. 100% agree, because you know what? There is the best shooter. We could have a shooting competition worldwide. I can tell you who the best shooter is this year. If that person just stops, they're not going to be the best shooter next year. An enthusiast that is trying to beat the person next year will be. And there's a logical end. It's a perfect way to describe it. There is a logical end to being an expert. There is somebody that knows more about a specific thing than anybody else. They are the expert. But unless they're enthusiastic about their approach, unless they are passionate, unless they can manage their ego and put that ego aside and continue to learn and then grow, they're not going to be the expert for very long. Being an expert has an expiration date. Being an enthusiast is open-ended.
Dang. And that was awesome. Yeah, but the enthusiast also wants to share everything, right? Like, I think that the word expert like has like that person that like you said, that monk that keeps the knowledge. Like, you should never want to keep your knowledge. Like, you want to be sharing it with everybody. So that enthusiasm, you know, wherever you're at. And if you've never seen the movie Untouchables, go watch it, because when Robert De Niro says the word enthusiasm, sorry, that's where my brain goes. Enthusiasm, you know?
Enthusiasm.
Yeah. I think before he beats the dude's head with a baseball bat. These are the things that my life choices actually make more sense now, considering the movies that I gravitated towards. Right. Yeah, no, I lost it. But being that person at any phase in your career is going to be good. Like, you don't have to be the cool guy, but the problem with the enthusiastic person that your ego is going to find is that it can lead to failure. Like, you're going to put yourself out there. You're going to get into situations that you're not comfortable with. And so that's why we want to be like the expert, not the enthusiast. Because as an enthusiast, you have to know that you're deficient in some things, like, but like, I don't know, it's like an egg, right? Like, your ego, like you think you're this thing with a hard shell, but like, if you don't throw yourself into the boiling water, like, you can't absorb anything else, you know? Like, if you shoot a BB at a hard boiled egg, like, it just absorbs it. You shoot a BB at like a egg that's never been in boiling water, and it cracks and it falls all over the place and it's a mess. And that person comes in your office crying because whatever happened. Right. But like that. Yeah, that's what it is. But like, it's a dangerous game for your ego, you know, because you have to put yourself out there and you're going to fail a whole lot. But like, that positive mental attitude, like we talked about the other day. Yep. That's what keeps you going.
I will call you out. You said it backwards a second ago. You meant you want to be the enthusiast and not the expert. But I get what you're saying.
I'm sorry.
I got you. I'm here to clean it up.
I think your ego wants you to be the expert and not the enthusiast.
For sure. Yeah, 100%. Your ego does want to do that. And because it's protective, just like you said. Your ego and your id are there to protect you. They're, no kidding. It's there. Like we talked about earlier with evolutionary biology, your ego is there to protect those inner workings of yourself, of your core, of your soul. You got to put that aside. You got to be the enthusiast and be willing to fail. We've talked about failing forward and failing fast all the time. And, you know, an enthusiast, somebody with passion, 100% is going to fail. And they're probably going to look silly. And it's probably going to hurt your ego. But that's good. Your ego is meant to be hurt.
Yeah. It's and even like the visuals that you get, like, sorry, like when you said the monk on top of the mountain, like, or the person that has like all the knowledge, like, that's a defensible position, you know, like, even your brain, like when you think about it, like that person is such a highly defensible position. Sorry, I have to do like,
no, that's a great point.
I'm like shooting down at people coming up the mountain.
You got to the gun hands pretty quickly there.
That's like, you know, like when you talk about free fall and you like, if you're telling 100%. A free fall story, like your hands are up, like you're going through the motions.
And then I was flying, I was like casting spells, I was looking around, and I was dumping, whatever. Yeah, we're all caricatures. I don't even know a better way to describe it, because I would love to pretend like I've never done that before. But if I could think of a million times right now where I've been, teaching CQC is my favorite thing to do. My favorite tactical exercise. It's just fun. It's high level problem solving with dire physical consequences, which I love, which is also why I love JITS. But I can just picture so many times I didn't have a gun in my hand. Why was I making that? Like, I didn't have to do that.
Well, we all have like the way that we hold the imaginary gun, and I'll look at my hands. I'm like, that's not how I hold my rifle. Because like I turn my left hand over like I'm throwing a jab forward, and it's so stupid.
Nobody does that. I'm not holding. Whatever.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, but we all do it. Whatever memo got put out.
Yeah. All my Darcy stories are me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah. I think we wrapped it up pretty good. We really did.
We really stayed on track this time. Look at us actually, having usable content because we focused on some topics that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it was pretty miserable.
I love it.
So we got anything new coming up?
We have a whole bunch of new stuff coming up. We have, I'm not going to put it out here. I don't know when this one's going to drop. We'll try to get out a little bit sooner, but we got some guests that are, so we've leveled up on people that are willing to come on the podcast. We definitely have some things on the burner that are going to come on. So for those guests, little shout out, your favorite ONESREADY personalities and myself are going to be at the SHOT Show this year. So we'll see you in Vegas. Shout out. Come look for us and say hi, and we'll try to get this out before SHOT happens. So maybe we'll quick turn this one and get it out sometime soon. But yeah, got a whole lot of stuff coming up in the future. Bringing some more friends under the umbrella and having them do their own thing. And we got a lot of content that we're putting out, but it's always focused on y'all and making sure that we get the information out to y'all, because that's what we want. Like, we want you guys to be better than we are. We want you to be that subject matter enthusiast, and we want you to be light years ahead of where we are as leaders, as operators, as people. So yeah, always good stuff on the horizon, because we don't stop, baby. This train don't stop.
Yeah, we just want to be a small part of that solution, right? Moving forward for as many people as possible that are interested in what we're doing. So, we're interested in what they're doing. I think is more appropriate at this point.
Yep.
So
100%.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Leave comments. I love it.
Just go caress that subscribe button. Subscriptions really do help for everybody out there. I will say this. Subscribe to the podcast. You may listen to it every week. Just subscribe to it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell your friends about it. Get some subscriptions on there. That would really help us out. It help us as we get through. So turns out big tech was shadow banning everybody. Wow. Crazy.
What?
Dang. Yeah. Crazy, right? We actually have seen our engagement go up a little bit. So as this dam breaks, we'd like to get a little bit more popular, but it's because we want to cast a wider net. And we want to be able to get as many people that we can into this goodness that we call Aspect War. So like, subscribe, share it with your friends, leave a comment. Even if it's mean, it's okay. I totally get it. Sometimes people just want to be angry on the internet. I'll allow you the space to do so. And it helps me manage my ego, which, is, we all know, is massive.
Let it out and then go to the gym. You'll feel better.
That's it. Yeah, go to the effing gym. I'm about to go hit open mat myself, so let's go get some of this stuff. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Appreciate y'all.
Later.
Have a good one.